Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the course of this video lesson, I'll be teaching on the introductory aspect to the subject biology. Now let's get into this video lesson. Now this must be noted. It must be noted here that the term or the word biology was actually derived from two Greek words. Now listen carefully. The term biology was derived from what? Two Greek words. Now, before we even move further to talk about that, biology is divided into two words, okay? The first part of it is called bio, whereby the other part is called logy. So, for bio, it is the first Greek word, which is this. It is written as bios, whereby for logy it is written as logos. So it is from these Greek words we actually get what biology is. Now for bios, it simply means life. Bios simply means what? Life. Whereby for logos, it simply means to study. Do you understand? Logos simply means what? To study. So on this, bringing them together, we simply say that biology is the study of life. This is what we call biology. So biology is simply what? The study of life. Now this must be noted. Now remember, when you were in primary school, you were taught that anything that has life in it should be regarded to be called a living thing. Do you understand? You know, we have living things and non-living things. So those that have life in them, they are regarded to be called what? Living things. But when we start studying biology, which is very, very important to us, we don't call them living things, but rather we regard things that have life in them to be called living organisms. Are you getting me now? So you have to be familiar with this word now, living organism. You have to remove things and put what? Organisms here. Are you getting me now? So this must be noted. Now moving further, these living organisms, they are broadly divided into three groups. Listen carefully. These living organisms are broadly divided into three groups. So what are they? The first, the second, and the third. What is the first group of these living organisms? The first is plants. This must be noted. Plants are living organisms. They have life in them. You know, we have different types of plants. Are you getting me now? The second group of living organisms are regarded to be called animals. And the last group of living organisms are regarded to be called microorganisms. Now listen carefully. There's something I'm about saying. So you can see that I broadly divided living organisms into three groups, which are plants, animals, and what? Microorganisms. So in biology, these are the main groups of organisms we study, because we already said that biology has to do with the study of life, and anything that has life in it should be regarded to be called a living thing. And I said that you have to now call it living organism because we are in the subject biology. We are not in primary school anymore. So on these living organisms are divided into three groups broadly. Now we're discussing that living organisms are broadly divided into three groups. This now brings us to understand the major branches of biology. Please listen carefully. Biology has different branches. So the living organisms, which we now broadly divided into three groups, forms the three important branch of biology. Now this must be noted. Now moving further, understanding that living organisms can be broadly divided into three groups as seen here: plants, animals, and microorganisms. This brings us to understand the major branches of biology, because biology is divided into different branches. We have three main branches of biology, and it is gotten from the three major living organisms, which are plant, animals, and microorganisms. So when we study plants as a branch of biology, what do we call that? It is regarded to be called botany. This must be noted. The study of plants is regarded to be called what? Botany. When we study animals, it is regarded to be called zoology. Are you following me? And moving further, when we study microorganisms, it is regarded to be called microbiology. Are you following me? So these are the three major branches of biology. You know, what are microorganisms? The word micro simply means small, and the word organism simply means things that have life in them. Do you understand? Things that have life in them. So, or we can as well just call them living things. So what do we call microorganisms? Microorganisms are small organisms. They are organisms you can't see with your naked eyes. You see microorganism with the aid of an instrument called the microscope. Are you following me? So we use microscope to view microorganism. A microorganism forms one major branch of biology, which is regarded to be called microorganisms. But this is very, very important in biology. Remember, microorganisms, they are regarded to be ubiquitous. Okay, meaning that they are found almost everywhere. Okay, they are so numerous in nature. So moving further, we can see that biology is broadly divided into three branches, which are botany, zoology, and microbiology. Though we have other branches of biology which I'll be discussing in this video lesson, but there is something you must actually take note of. Now, if you observe, I said that living organisms are actually divided into these three major groups, which are plant, animals, and microorganisms. Now, it must be noted here that there is a scientist that actually brought about this old way of classification of living organisms. Because now I just classified organisms into three groups. This work was done by a man called Aristotle. This must be noted. Do you understand? So this man actually, said that living organisms should be classified into plant, animals, and what now? Microorganisms. So with the work of this man, organisms could not still be classified into where they actually belong. Do you understand? I know that we have different plants in nature, but we could not still get to understand because we have different types of plants. I don't know if you understand my point. This man Aristotle just classified organisms into plants, animals, and microorganisms, but he actually did not really explain different groups to which these organisms belongs to, because we have different species of this living organism. That is why another man came after the work of Aristotle, and that man's name is called Carl Linnaeus. Do you understand? Carl Linnaeus now brought about what we call the modern way of classification of living organisms, which I'll be discussing in the course of this video lesson. But before we talk about that, I have to list out the other branches of biology that you must take note of. Now, this must be noted. When we study organisms, living organisms in relation to their environment, we call that something. So the study of living organism, which you already know that there are three groups, but I'm going to work on this classification in relation to their environment, we simply call that ecology. Take note, when we study organisms in relation to their environment, in relation to how they behave in their environment, what do we call that branch of biology? We simply call that what? Ecology. That is why ecology is also regarded to be called environmental biology. Do you understand? It is one important branch of biology. It is also regarded to be called environmental biology. Now, let's progress. When we study cell, it is one key aspect of biology still, and it is called cytology. Do you understand? When cells are studied, remember, cells forms the basic functional and structural units of life. Without cell, life cannot exist. Do you understand? Without that cell not formed, life cannot exist. So cells, they are very important. So the study of cell is simply called cytology. When we study tissues, what do we call that? You know, cell tissue, I'm going to talk about that in subsequent videos, okay? When we study tissue, we simply call that histology. Do you understand? So we have numerous branches of biology. Now, moving further, when we study the functions of different parts, listen, when we study the functions of different parts of a living organism, like for instance, now, this is my hand. What's the function of my hand? We simply call that physiology. Take notes. Do you understand? But in physiology, we still talk about the internal functions of different parts of the body. Do you understand? Like our liver, the kidney. What is the function of these organs? That's physiology. Do you understand? But now, when we study the structure, listen. But to be specific now, when we study the internal structure, listen carefully, the internal structure of different parts of a living organism now, we simply call that anatomy. So if you observe, what's the difference between both of them? Physiology has to do with the functions. Anatomy has to do with the structure. What is the makeup of this particular organ in the body, inside the body, internal? That is anatomy. Do you understand? Now, don't confuse anatomy with morphology. Both of them are different. Do you understand? Don't confuse anatomy with morphology. For morphology, it has to do with the external structure of different parts of a particular living organism. Anatomy is the internal, morphology is what? The external structure. So when we study the external structure of different parts of a living organism, we simply call that morphology. So let's progress to other branches of biology, because these are other branches of what? Biology. Now moving further, let us progress to other branches of biology. We have another which is regarded to be called taxonomy. This is very, very important. Taxonomy. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy is a branch of biology that has to do with the study or the scientific study of the classification of living organisms. So when you classify organisms scientifically, you simply call that what? Taxonomy. And in the course of this video lesson, I'll be elaborating more on taxonomy. But before then, let's simply talk about other branches like the study of insects. The study of insects is simply called entomology. Take note, entomology. Okay, we have others like the study of parasites. Parasites. What's that? It is simply called parasitology. Do you understand? We have different aspects. You know, we have embryology, which is also called developmental biology. How embryos are, being developed. Do you understand? So on this, let us talk about taxonomy. What is taxonomy? Have I actually explained that taxonomy has to do with the study of, the scientific study of how organisms are being classified. That's taxonomy. Well, in the course of this video, I'm going to elaborate more on this aspect of biology because it's very, very important. So moving further, let's talk about taxonomy. Remember I said that taxonomy is one important branch of biology. Remember, taxonomy has to do with the study of the scientific classification of living organisms. Not just classification of living organisms, also giving these living organisms names. Do you understand? This aspect of biology, the modern aspect of taxonomy, was actually brought by a man called Carl Linnaeus. Okay, this must be noted. Carl Linnaeus was actually a Swedish botanist. That means he studied botany. Do you understand? Someone who is called a botanist studied botany. That means he studied plants. He now later explained to us how organisms should be classified, and that's what I want to talk about in the course of this video lesson. You know, Carl Linus, in the concept of taxonomy, he explained two important things. First, he explained the hierarchy. Take note. He explained what the hierarchy to which organisms should be classified. So he explained the hierarchy of classification, not just the hierarchy of classification. He also brought about what we call binomial nomenclature. Binomial what? Nomenclature. I'm going to explain what this means. So just follow. He brought about two things majorly. He brought about the hierarchy of classification of living organisms, and also he brought about what we call binomial nomenclature. What is hierarchy of classification? Hierarchy has to do with how organisms are actually arranged in hierarchy. I believe you understand what the word hierarchy means. So, hierarchy of classification begins with what we call kingdom. Note it. Kingdom. I'm going to explain them. After kingdom, we move further to what we call phylum, stroke what we call division. Note this. After this, we move further to what we call, we have kingdom, phylum, we have what we call class. Yes. After class, we move further to what we call order. After order, we move further to what we call family. After family, we move further to what we call genus. And lastly, what we call species. So this is the hierarchy of classification of living organisms. But in modern day, now moving further on this hierarchy of classification, which is called kingdom, we have different kingdoms to which living organism belongs. Do you understand? There are about 5. The first is kingdom Monera. The other is kingdom Protista. The other is called kingdom Fungi. The other is called kingdom Plantae. And also the last is called kingdom Animalia. So if you observe, you can see that this man called Carl Linus, who brought about the modern classification of living organisms, who was a pioneer for the modern classification, taxonomy, now further explain to us and try to tell us where each of these organisms belongs to. You know, Aristotle just told us that living organisms are of 3 groups, which are plants, animals, and microorganisms. But this man went on to explain to us the specific groups to which these organisms actually belongs to. So you can see that on just kingdom, we have about 5 groups, which are kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom what? Animalia. Do you understand? So, you know, each of these kingdoms, they have their own characteristics. Do you understand? Like for kingdom Moneras, organisms that should be here, they are prokaryotic in nature. So I have to tell you what the word prokaryotic means. Do you understand? They are organisms without a well-defined nucleus. Note this. They have no well-defined what? Nucleus. The nucleus is not well defined in prokaryotic organisms. So we have to now then understand what the word nucleus means. Nucleus is found in a cell. It is the control center of a cell. If that nucleus to that cell is damaged, automatically that cell will be damaged. Do you understand? But I'm not talking about cell. You know, the study of cell I said is called cytology. In subsequent videos, I'm going to explain all of these concepts. Like for Protista now, they have their own characteristics. Organisms here, they are not prokaryotic, but rather they are eukaryotic. Do you understand? So we have to then understand each of the groups. But, you know, I'm going to talk about them in subsequent videos. But I'm just telling you that this man called Carl Linus brought about this method of classification and also brought about binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature has to do with the act of giving an organism 2 names. What are the 2 names? The first one is called the genus name. The genus what? Name. And the other is called the species name. The species what name, this must be noted, which is the generic name and also the specific name. I'm going to give us an example to explain this. So let's take, for instance, humans. We humans. You can be asked, what is the scientific name for humans? Remember I said that binomial nomenclature is the act of giving organisms two names. And remember, you understand that Carl Linnaeus has to do with explains the concept of classification of organisms and also naming organisms. So what's the scientific? All organisms have their own specific scientific name. For humans, the scientific name for humans is simply called Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. This must be noted. Now, if you observe, Homo here is the generic name, whereby sapien here is the specific name or the species name. Are you following me? So you can see this now written explains what we call binomial nomenclature. Different organisms have their own specific have their own scientific name. Now, if you observe how I wrote this scientific name, you have to be careful when you are writing it in your notebook. You must make sure that for the generic name, the first letter should start with a capital letter. You can see it's capital letter H, and whereby the other words from the first letter should be small letters. Are you following me? And also, it should be underlined. Whenever you are writing a scientific name, you must underline that particular word. Do you understand my point? If this was to be a typed word in a computer, it should be written in italics, slants. You must write it as a slant word. Do you understand the point? So this is the scientific name for what we call what now? Humans. We humans. So on this hierarchy, moving further to this hierarchy of classification, you can see that on Just Kingdom we have about 5 of them: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Do you understand? So also we have to understand where they came from. You can see I just said a little thing about Monera, that they are prokaryotic. For Protista, they are eukaryotic. That is why before we even get to Kingdom, there is something we must understand first about organisms. Organisms can be either prokaryotic, eukaryotic, or even akaryotic. Do you understand? That is why we must understand what we call the domains to which organism belongs to. In the domain, we tend to understand which group of organisms are prokaryotic, which group of organisms are eukaryotic or akaryotic without a well-defined nucleus. Do you understand? Without. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very, very important. So actually, hierarchy of classification starts with domain before we get to kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and what species. I'm going to use two set of organisms to actually explain what I mean by the hierarchy of classification. So moving further, as earlier said, I'll be using two different organisms to explain the hierarchy of classification of living organisms. And first, I will start with humans. I will start with what? Humans. Take note, humans. On this, let's talk about humans. So the question we ask ourselves, okay, let me just write what I'll be talking about. I will talk about humans and also talk about the African elephant. This is an animal. Basically, let's talk about humans before we get to the African elephant. So the question asks me, what is the domain of humans? Which domains do humans belongs to? The domain human belongs to is regarded to be called eukarya or eukarya. If you observe eukaryotic, meaning that some organisms that are eukaryotic, they are complex. Do you understand? Actually, both of them belongs to the group eukarya. Now, moving further, you can see that for an organism to be a eukaryotic, it must be the organism is actually complex. It's complex. In the human body, we have about 37 trillion cells. Do you understand? Like humans, we are very complex. Same applies to elephants. We are complex. We have a lot of a lot of cells. When cells comes together, it gives rise to what we call tissues. When tissues comes together, it gives rise to what we call organs. Organs come together, give rise to what we call system, and bringing all the systems in the body, it gives rise to the living organism. It gives rise to what the organism. This is what we call the organization of life, how life is organized. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can see the domain to which this set of organism belongs to. Now moving further on the kingdom, remember we have 5 of the kingdom: Monera, Protista, Fungi, plants, and animal. So where do human belongs to? Are we regarded to be called Monerans? No, we are not. Even if I'm not explaining what Monerans are, humans, we are not Monerans. We are not Protista. We are not fungi. We are not plants. Plantae. We are animals, but regarded to be called higher animals. So on kingdom, I'm going to write Animalia. Are you following me? Here, this is an animal as well. Here will be Animalia. Do you understand? So moving further, phylum. Wow. Now, you can say I wrote here to be division. I'm going to explain why I wrote that. If I was talking about a plant, listen, if I were to classify a plant, this place I wrote phylum, I'll remove it and put division. If you are talking about animals, it should be phylum. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very, very important. It's very easy as well. So for humans, we belong to the phylum called Chordata. Chordata. Do you understand what are chordatas? Now for elephants still belongs to the phylum Chordata. I cannot say elephants or humans belong to the division. We are not plants. Do you understand? We are not plants. We are higher animals, advanced animals. Okay, so on this here, for elephant, they still belongs to the phylum Chordata. What are chordatas? Chordatas, like, they are organisms that have what we call notochords. They have what we call notochords. These notochords, they are present in the embryonic stage of development, meaning that at the stage of developing into into an organism, whereby the 2 cells that forms this zygote will later develop into an embryo, which is the sperm cell and also the ovum. During that stage of the embryo formation, the structure that supports embryo is regarded to be called notochords. So we humans are an elephant now, or animals, elephants are animals, we are animals as well. We both share the same characteristics. We have both notochords during that stage. So it is this notochord that later develop into what we call the vertebral column, which houses the spinal cord. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very, very important. So moving further on the class where humans belongs to, human belongs to the class called mammals. We are mammals. Do you understand? It's very important. We are mammals. Same applies to the African elephant. Elephants, they are mammals as well. Do you understand? So this must be noted. For you to be a mammal, you possess hair. I'm talking about humans now. Take note. You possess hair, and also you have the ability to produce milk. Do you understand? So that's for that. So moving over to the order. Which order do humans belong to? Human belongs to the order called primates. Do you understand? Mates. For elephants, is different. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm going to explain what this means. For elephant, it belongs to the order called the Proboscidae. Take note. Proboscidae. Why for humans? I'm stressed with humans now. For you to be called a primate, that means you have large brain. The brain is large, and also the eyes will be facing forward. For elephants, it's quite different. That's why they are not called primates. Do you understand? So that's for what now? The order. So which family do humans belong to? Hominidae. Do you understand? That's the family to which humans belongs to. While for elephant is quite different. The family to which elephants belongs to is called Elephantidae. Do you understand? So moving further to the last group, which is genus and species. These two hierarchy forms what we call the binomial nomenclature, which is the act of giving an organism 2 names. So for the genus name for humans, remember we said that genus name is Homo, whereby the species name, the specific name is called Sapiens. Do you understand? Whereby for elephant, the genus name, because we have different species of elephants, okay, it's called Donta, yes, whereby the specific name you can see is found in Africa, so we call it Africana. Do you understand? So this is the concept of what this man was trying to talk about, Carl Linnaeus, which explains the hierarchy of classification of living organisms. Now, moving further, let's quickly talk about the importance of this subject, biology. You know, biology is extremely important to us humans in different ways. First of all, biology serves as a career subject. This is very important, meaning that, you know, with the knowledge of biology, you can actually become, you know, a professional. Yes, this is what I mean. With the knowledge of biology, you can actually study nursing science as a profession. Do you understand? With the knowledge of biology, you can actually study medicine as a profession. With the knowledge of biology, you can actually become a teacher. Do you understand? You can actually become a teacher by teaching. With the knowledge of biology, you can actually study the course pharmacy. Do you understand? And so on and so forth. Veterinary medicine. You know, when someone studies nursing science, the person studies nursing science to become a registered nurse. Do you understand? When someone studies medicine, the person does that to become a medical doctor. Do you understand? You know, when someone has the ability to teach, you simply call that person a teacher. So with the knowledge of biology, you can actually do so much. Do you understand? Even pharmacy to become a pharmacist. Veterinary medicine to become a veterinary doctor. Do you understand the point? So that's for that. This is one very important aspect of biology. Biology is extremely important to us. You know, it helps us humans to understand our body. And also it helps us, you know, to be able to relate with the environment. For instance, the outbreak of a particular disease. You know, with the knowledge of biology, it helps us to be able to curb that particular, you know, pathogen causing that disease. I don't know if you understand my point. So biology is extremely very important to us humans. So we've come to the end of this video lesson. If you find my video lesson helpful, make sure you subscribe to my channel and also share this lesson with your friends. Thanks for watching.